The year is 1352. The Black Death has ravaged the land, leaving a pall of fear and despair. In the Benedictine Abbey of St. Michael, nestled deep within the English countryside, life continues its measured rhythm of prayer and labor. But within the heart of Brother Thomas, a quiet revolution is stirring. For years, Brother Thomas has dedicated himself to the study of forgotten texts, seeking wisdom beyond the well-trodden paths of religious dogma. He is driven by an insatiable curiosity, a thirst for understanding the hidden workings of the world. One day, while poring over a particularly obscure volume attributed to Thales of Miletus, he stumbles upon a passage describing the peculiar properties of amber, how, when rubbed, it attracts feathers and straw. Electrum, the ancients called it. Intrigued, Brother Thomas sets aside his theological studies and begins to experiment. He procures a piece of amber, polishes it diligently, and rubs it against a piece of rabbit fur. To his astonishment, it works. Tiny feathers dance and cling to the amber's surface. He repeats the experiment again and again, each time marveling at the invisible force at play. He calls it the divine spark, a hidden energy that binds all things together. Driven by his newfound obsession, Brother Thomas begins to meticulously document his findings. He draws diagrams of his apparatus, records his observations, and formulates hypotheses about the nature of this mysterious force. Meanwhile, in the nearby manor house, Lady Isolde seeks solace from her grief. The recent death of her brother from the plague has shaken her faith, leaving her searching for answers beyond the confines of traditional religion. Whispers of Brother Thomas's unusual activities reach her ears. Rumors of strange experiments and flickering lights pique her interest. She sees in his unconventional pursuits a glimmer of hope, a potential escape from the darkness that has enveloped her. Further afield, in a secluded workshop filled with bubbling concoctions and strange apparatus, Master Guillaume, an aging alchemist, dismisses the rumors of the monk's electrical experiments as mere folly. He is consumed by his own quest, the pursuit of the elixir of life. However, as whispers of the monk's work grow louder, Guillaume begins to sense an opportunity. Perhaps this divine spark holds a secret that can unlock the mysteries of life and death and restore his tarnished reputation. Unbeknownst to Brother Thomas, the spark he has ignited will soon draw him into a dangerous game, a collision between faith and science that will threaten everything he holds dear. The whispers of amber have begun, and the world will never be the same. The shadow of the Black Death still lingered, a constant reminder of loss. For Lady Isolde the pain was fresh, the wound raw. Her brother, once full of life and laughter, was now a memory fading with each passing day. The church offered solace, but its words rang hollow, failing to fill the void in her heart. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but Isolde's grief remained. The prayers, the rituals, the pronouncements of divine will, none offered true comfort. She found herself questioning the very foundations of her faith, searching for answers beyond the well-trodden paths of religious dogma. The sterile pronouncements of the clergy offered no balm to her grief. Standing before her brother's cold tomb, she felt not peace but a growing anger. Where was the divine comfort, the miracle, the intervention that should have saved him? Was it truly God's will, or simply the random cruelty of fate? Seeking alternative explanations, Isolde turned to the family library, a repository of knowledge accumulated over generations. She devoured texts on philosophy, medicine, and even the forbidden arts, searching for a glimmer of understanding that eluded her within the confines of religious doctrine. Whispers began to reach her ears, rumors of strange experiments conducted within the walls of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Michael. Tales of a monk delving into forbidden knowledge, seeking to unlock the secrets of life itself. The villagers spoke in hushed tones, their words laced with fear and superstition. The rumors centered on Brother Thomas, a scholar of the abbey, known for his eccentric habits and tireless study of ancient texts. It was said he had discovered forgotten secrets, secrets that could challenge the very foundations of the Church's authority. Driven by a desperate hope and a thirst for knowledge, Isolde resolved to seek out Brother Thomas. She would see for herself the truth behind the rumors, and perhaps find a path towards understanding the mysteries that plagued her. The journey to the abbey was fraught with a sense of unease. The villagers eyed her retinue with suspicion, their whispers following her like a shadow. The Church's authority was absolute, and any deviation from its teachings was met with fear and condemnation. Brother Thomas, a man of quiet intellect and unwavering curiosity, received Lady Isolde with cautious politeness. He was aware of the risks involved in his research and the potential consequences of attracting the attention of the Church. Isolde, in turn, spoke of her grief, her disillusionment, and her burning desire to understand the mysteries of life and death. She offered him her patronage, her protection, and the resources he needed to continue his research, regardless of the potential risks. Brother Thomas listened intently, weighing the potential benefits against the inevitable dangers. He knew that accepting her offer would be a perilous gamble, but the opportunity to advance his research, to unlock the secrets of the divine spark, was too tempting to resist. And so, an unlikely alliance was forged, a pact between a grieving noblewoman and a curious monk, bound together by a shared desire to challenge the established order and unlock the secrets of life itself. The experiment had begun. Master Guillaume's reputation preceded him, a tapestry woven with threads of brilliance and folly. Once celebrated for his promise, he had squandered his standing on increasingly outlandish quests. The whispers followed him, failed transmutations, poisoned elixirs, and a reputation for chasing shadows rather than substance. His pursuit of the elixir of life had become a joke among his peers, a testament to wasted potential. Another dawn, another failure. The lead remained stubbornly lead, refusing to yield the golden secret he so desperately craved. Guillaume cursed under his breath, the familiar sting of disappointment washing over him. He was running out of time, his body betraying him with each passing year, and the dream of immortality seemed ever more distant. News, like the plague, traveled swiftly, carried by merchants and wandering minstrels. Whispers of a monk experimenting with divine sparks reached even Guillaume's secluded workshop, filtering through the usual gossip about crop failures and petty squabbles. Guillaume initially dismissed the rumors as simpletons' tales, born of fear and ignorance, monks dabbling in science, preposterous. And yet, a seed of curiosity began to sprout within him. What if there was something to this divine spark? What if it held the key he had been searching for all along? The allure of redemption proved too strong to resist. Guillaume, haunted by his past failures and yearning for one last chance at glory, saw in Brother Thomas's experiments a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, by combining his alchemical knowledge with this divine spark, he could finally achieve the breakthrough that had eluded him for so long. Unbeknownst to Brother Thomas and Lady Isolde, Master Guillaume set his sights on the Benedictine Abbey. He saw the monastery not as a place of piety, but as a laboratory ripe with untapped potential. He gathered his most essential tools and ingredients, preparing for the journey. He knew that approaching the monks would require careful diplomacy. He needed to present himself not as a desperate charlatan, but as a learned scholar, eager to contribute his expertise. The journey to the abbey was arduous. The roads were poorly maintained, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. Yet Guillaume pressed on, driven by a mixture of ambition and desperation. He arrived at the abbey gates late in the afternoon, the imposing structure looming before him. He presented himself to the gatekeeper, requesting an audience with Brother Thomas. He emphasized his credentials as a scholar and alchemist, carefully omitting any mention of his past failures. Brother Thomas, intrigued by Guillaume's unexpected arrival and promise of assistance, agreed to meet with him. He listened patiently as the alchemist described his vast knowledge and his desire to contribute to the monk's research. Thomas, wary but also eager for any help he could get, decided to hear him out. Lady Isolde, ever watchful of those who approached Brother Thomas, observed the meeting with suspicion. She knew that many sought to exploit the monk's knowledge or undermine his work. She resolved to keep a close eye on Master Guillaume, ensuring that his intentions were truly honorable. Guillaume, sensing an opportunity, carefully laid out his proposition. He offered his alchemical expertise, his laboratory, and his resources, all in the service of understanding the divine spark. Brother Thomas, swayed by the alchemist's apparent sincerity and the promise of advancement, cautiously accepted the offer. Guillaume had gained his foothold, the first step towards reclaiming his lost glory, whatever the cost. Lady Isolde, having witnessed Brother Thomas's rudimentary experiments, recognized the potential within the divine spark. She offered him her patronage, promising resources to further his research, a shield against the skepticism of the church. Brother Thomas, initially hesitant, grappled with the ethical implications of accepting such generous support. Yet, the allure of unlocking the secrets of life through this newfound energy proved too strong to resist. He saw it as a path to understanding God's creation, not defying it. News of Brother Thomas's work reached Master Guillaume, not as a threat, but as a spark that could ignite his own stalled research. He sought out the monk, his intentions a mixture of genuine curiosity and the desperate hope for redemption. Guillaume, despite his tarnished reputation, possessed an unparalleled understanding of natural philosophy. He offered his knowledge to Brother Thomas, weaving alchemical theories with the monk's electrical observations, forming a strange and uneasy alliance. Lady Isolde's wealth allowed for the construction of a dedicated laboratory, equipped with the finest tools and materials. The monastery, once a sanctuary of quiet contemplation, now echoed with the sounds of hammers, saws, and the whispers of scientific inquiry. Their initial experiments were crude. Using Leyden jars fashioned from glass vials and rudimentary conductors, they attempted to stimulate the nerves of small animals, seeking to understand how the divine spark might influence life itself. The results were unsettling. The animals twitched, convulsed, their bodies reacting to the unnatural force. Was it life they were witnessing, or merely a grotesque mimicry? Guillaume, however, was driven by a different ambition. He saw the divine spark as a tool, a means to an end. The ethical considerations weighed little against the promise of unlocking the secrets of life and death. Lady Isolde, haunted by the loss of her brother, desperately sought a way to reverse the inevitable. She saw in this experiment a glimmer of hope, a chance to cheat death and reclaim what she had lost. Whispers began to spread throughout the nearby village. Tales of unnatural experiments of life being manipulated fueled the villagers' fears. They saw the monk, the noblewoman, and the disgraced alchemist as agents of dark forces, tampering with God's domain. As the experiments grew more daring, Brother Thomas found himself increasingly isolated, caught between his scientific curiosity and his unwavering faith. He knew that the path they were treading was fraught with danger, both physical and spiritual. The whispers started subtly. A hushed conversation in the village square, a sideways glance from a passing farmer. Fear, like the creeping tendrils of ivy, began to snake its way around Brother Thomas's work. His experiments, once a source of quiet fascination within the monastery walls, were now spoken of with a mixture of awe and dread. Lady Isolde heard the murmurs too. Her chamberlain, a man who prided himself on being informed of every happening within the village, brought tales of unease. Stories of unnatural lights flickering in the monastery, of animals behaving strangely, of whispered accusations of witchcraft. She dismissed them as peasant superstition, but a seed of worry had been planted. Master Guillaume, lost in his alchemical pursuits, remained largely unaware of the growing unrest. He was consumed by the challenge of harnessing the divine spark, seeing it as a potential catalyst for his grand ambition, the elixir of life. He cared little for the opinions of villagers or the concerns of the church. Brother Thomas, though engrossed in his experiments, was a devout man. He wrestled with the ethical implications of his work, questioning whether he was overstepping the bounds of divine providence. He sought guidance in prayer, hoping to reconcile his scientific curiosity with his unwavering faith. The first official warning came subtly, cloaked in concern. Two senior monks, dispatched by the abbot, approached Brother Thomas in the cloister. They spoke of rumors circulating within the community, of disquiet among the brothers. They cautioned him against pursuing paths that might lead to heresy. Lady Isolde, sensing the rising tide of opposition, sought an audience with the local bishop. She attempted to defend Brother Thomas, portraying his experiments as a pursuit of knowledge, a quest to understand God's creation. The bishop listened patiently, but his eyes held a flicker of skepticism. The church's unease manifested more directly in Master Guillaume's case. A Dominican friar, known for his fiery sermons and unwavering adherence to doctrine, arrived at his workshop, accusing him of dabbling in forbidden arts. A heated argument ensued, drawing the attention of the villagers. As the pressure mounted, Brother Thomas found it increasingly difficult to focus on his work. The subtle threats and veiled accusations chipped away at his resolve, fueling his self-doubt. Even his experiments seemed to falter, as if the very air had turned against him. Lady Isolde's support of Brother Thomas began to have repercussions on her own social standing. Letters arrived from distant relatives, expressing concern about her association with the monk and the alchemist. Her family's reputation was at stake, and she faced increasing pressure to distance herself from their controversial work. Master Guillaume, ever the pragmatist, began to destroy evidence of his more unorthodox experiments. He had faced the wrath of the church before, and he knew the dangers of being labeled a heretic. Survival, he reasoned, was paramount, even if it meant abandoning his grand ambitions. The abbot summoned Brother Thomas to the chapter house. He spoke of the growing scandal, of the threat to the abbey's reputation. He ordered Brother Thomas to cease his experiments immediately, to repent for his transgressions, and to rededicate himself to prayer and penance. The message was clear. Further defiance would result in severe consequences. Lady Isolde, despite her best efforts, could not shield Brother Thomas and Master Guillaume from the church's scrutiny. She watched helplessly as the walls closed in, as the whispers of fear and condemnation grew louder. She knew that their pursuit of knowledge, their quest for the divine spark, was on a collision course with the unwavering power of faith. The weight of their endeavor pressed heavily on Brother Thomas. Obtaining a recently deceased body, even one unclaimed, felt like a desecration, a transgression against the natural order. He wrestled with the morality of their quest, questioning if the pursuit of knowledge justified such actions. Guillaume, driven by a potent mix of ambition and desperation, saw only opportunity. The ethical considerations were mere trifles, obstacles to be swept aside in the pursuit of a breakthrough that could restore his tarnished reputation and perhaps even cheat death itself. Isolde, though resolute in her support, couldn't entirely shake the unease that gnawed at her conscience. The line between scientific inquiry and sacrilege blurred with each passing day, threatening to engulf them all. The electrical apparatus took shape slowly, painstakingly. Leyden jars, painstakingly crafted by Guillaume, lined with metal foil and filled with water, served as crude capacitors. Copper wires, meticulously soldered by Thomas, connected the jars to a hand-cranked generator designed to produce static electricity. The air crackled with anticipation. The generator, a marvel of ingenuity, sputtered and whirred as its crank was turned. With each rotation, static electricity built, stored within the Leyden jars, awaiting the moment of release. Isolde watched, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. The secrecy, the hushed whispers, the furtive glances, it all contributed to a growing sense of unease. She wondered if they were venturing too far, tampering with forces beyond their comprehension. The cadaver lay still and cold upon the table. A man recently deceased, a victim of a simple fever. His earthly existence had ended, and now his body served as a vessel for their experiment, a testament to their ambition, and a symbol of their potential hubris. Guillaume, his hands trembling slightly, meticulously adjusted the wires, his focus absolute. He muttered incantations, remnants of his alchemical training, a futile attempt to imbue their work with an aura of legitimacy. Thomas, his heart pounding in his chest, began to turn the crank. The generator whirred, sparks danced, and the Leyden jars hummed with stored energy. He sent a silent prayer heavenward, begging for forgiveness, for guidance, for a sign that they were not straying too far from God's path. A surge of electricity coursed through the wires, a jolt of raw power surging into the lifeless form. The body twitched, muscles contracting involuntarily. A collective gasp filled the room. Had they succeeded, or was it merely a grotesque parody of life? Isolde watched, her breath caught in her throat. The spectacle was both terrifying and mesmerizing, a glimpse into the very heart of creation, or perhaps its darkest perversion. The twitching subsided. Silence descended once more, heavy and pregnant with unanswered questions. Had they truly achieved something miraculous, or had they merely stumbled upon a fleeting illusion, a cruel mockery of life? The truth, elusive as ever, remained shrouded in the shadows. The air in Master Guillaume's workshop hung thick and heavy, a miasma of alchemical odors mingling with the sterile scent of the mortuary. Brother Thomas meticulously adjusted the wires connected to the intricate Leyden jar apparatus, his hands trembling slightly. The moment had arrived. Months of clandestine research, fueled by a desperate hope and a thirst for knowledge, had culminated in this singular, audacious experiment. Master Guillaume watched with a dispassionate air, his shrewd eyes missing nothing. He had seen countless experiments fail, dreams shatter against the unyielding wall of reality. Yet a flicker of anticipation, a whisper of ambition stirred within him. Perhaps, just perhaps, this divine spark held the key he had sought for so long. Lady Isolde stood apart, her delicate features etched with a mixture of hope and dread. The air crackled with unseen energy, a palpable tension that tightened her chest. She longed for a sign, a glimmer of reassurance that her brother's spirit had not simply vanished into the void. With a deep breath, Brother Thomas began to crank the handle. The Leyden jar sputtered to life, emitting a faint, high-pitched whine. A spark, a miniature lightning bolt, arced between the terminals, illuminating the still form on the table with an ethereal glow. At first, nothing happened. The body remained inert, unresponsive to the surge of energy coursing through the wires. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the rhythmic creaking of the crank. Then a flicker. Lady Isolde gasped, her hand flying to her chest. A faint tremor ran through the corpse's arm, a subtle twitch of the fingers. It was barely perceptible, easily dismissed as a trick of the light, but it was there. Master Guillaume leaned forward, his gaze intense. He saw it too. Not a full resuscitation, not a return to life, but a sign, a twitch, a spark of something stirring within the cold flesh. Brother Thomas continued to crank, his heart pounding in his chest. The tremors intensified, spreading through the body. The chest rose and fell, shallowly, mechanically, but it rose and fell. Was it life, or merely a macabre imitation? A collective gasp filled the room. The sight of the corpse's chest rising and falling, however shallowly, was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Had they succeeded? Had they truly cheated death? Lady Isolde's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't life as she knew it, not the warmth and laughter she remembered from her brother, but it was something, a flicker of existence, a defiance of the abyss. Hope, fragile and tentative, bloomed in her heart. Master Guillaume remained impassive. For him, it was merely data, a piece of the puzzle. The experiment had yielded a result, however ambiguous. It was a starting point, not an end. Brother Thomas ceased his efforts, his arms aching, his mind reeling. Had they truly achieved something miraculous, or had they merely conjured a grotesque parody of life? He did not know. But one thing was certain. Their experiment had opened a door to a realm of possibilities and perils that they could no longer ignore. The whispers had taken root in the village, festering like an unattended wound. Once subtle murmurs now echoed through the marketplace, accusations of witchcraft and unholy practices aimed squarely at the abbey. Lady Isolde found herself increasingly isolated. Once welcomed in the halls of the local nobility, she was now met with averted gazes and hushed whispers. Her association with Brother Thomas had stained her reputation, casting a shadow over her family name. The past has a way of resurfacing, and for Master Guillaume, it arrived in the form of a debt long forgotten. Men, faces grim and unforgiving, sought him out, reminding him of promises made and broken years ago. Doubt gnawed at Brother Thomas's soul. Was he truly serving God's purpose, or had he strayed down a path of hubris and sacrilege? The line between scientific inquiry and blasphemy blurred with each experiment. The weight of her family's disapproval pressed heavily upon Isolde. She had risked everything for the pursuit of knowledge, but now she wondered if the price was too high. The stress of the situation brought tensions to a head. Guillaume, desperate to salvage his reputation, clashed with Thomas over the direction of their experiments. Their differing motivations threatened to unravel their fragile alliance. Despite his growing doubts, Thomas couldn't abandon the work. The spark, that fleeting glimpse of the unknown, still held a powerful allure, a promise of understanding the very nature of life. The church's scrutiny intensified. The local bishop, alerted to the rumors swirling around Lady Isolde and Brother Thomas, demanded an explanation for their unorthodox activities. The pressure became unbearable for Guillaume. Fearing the repercussions of his past and the potential wrath of the church, he began to erase all traces of his involvement in the experiments. Brother Thomas, burdened by his conscience, sought guidance from the abbot. He confessed his doubts and fears, laying bare the full extent of their experiments and the moral quandaries they faced. Lady Isolde, aware of the burden he carried, found Brother Thomas in the scriptorium and assured him that despite the potential implications, the pursuit of knowledge was not a sinful act. She encouraged him to continue their pursuit. Guillaume watched as everything he had hoped for crumbled around him, his grand ambitions reduced to ashes and embers. He was left alone with his regrets and the bitter taste of unfulfilled potential. The decision had been made, a public demonstration, a desperate gamble to prove the potential of the divine spark and silence the growing tide of fear. Brother Thomas, burdened by the weight of expectation, meticulously prepared the apparatus. Lady Isolde, ever the pragmatist, took on the task of managing the optics. She sought to quell the rising panic in the village, promising not dark magic, but a revelation. Her words, though carefully chosen, were met with wary skepticism. Master Guillaume, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose, threw himself into perfecting the electrical generator. He tinkered day and night, his workshop filled with the hum of activity and the scent of ozone, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. The ethical implications weighed heavily on Brother Thomas. Was he treading on sacred ground? Was he right to defy the accepted understanding of life and death? He sought solace in prayer, but the answers remained elusive. A letter arrived, bearing the seal of a high-ranking church official. It was a veiled warning, a reminder of the church's authority and the potential consequences of heresy. Lady Isolde felt the noose tightening around their necks. The day of the demonstration arrived, cloaked in an atmosphere of palpable tension. Master Guillaume, barking orders, supervised the transport of the unwieldy electrical apparatus. The villagers watched in a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. Brother Thomas stood on the makeshift stage, his gaze sweeping over the assembled crowd. He saw fear, suspicion, and a desperate yearning for hope. The weight of their expectations threatened to crush him. Lady Isolde, ever vigilant, positioned herself near the front of the crowd. She scanned the faces, searching for any sign of trouble. She knew that their demonstration could easily be misinterpreted and manipulated. The apparatus stood as a testament to their combined ingenuity. Laden jars gleaming in the sunlight, copper wires snaking across the wooden platform, and the hand-cranked generator, ready to unleash its power. The church officials watched from a distance, their faces like thunder. They saw not a scientific endeavor, but a blasphemous attempt to usurp God's power. Their presence cast a pall over the proceedings. Master Guillaume, with a manic grin, began to crank the generator. The air crackled with electricity, and sparks danced from the electrodes connected to the lifeless form on the platform. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. A twitch, a barely perceptible movement. The corpse's hand clenched, then relaxed. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of screams, gasps, and muttered prayers. Had they witnessed a miracle or an abomination? The answer hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. The square buzzed with a morbid anticipation. Villagers, farmers, Even a few curious onlookers from neighboring towns had gathered. The air crackled with suspicion and fear. Brother Thomas, his faith wavering, adjusted the wires connected to the lifeless figure on the table. Lady Isolde watched from the fringes, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. The faces around her were contorted with a mixture of revulsion and morbid fascination. She knew that her reputation, her very life, hung in the balance. Master Guillaume, oblivious to the rising tension, focused solely on the machine. He saw only the potential, the possibility of unlocking the secrets of life itself. The murmurs of the crowd were just background noise to his scientific ambition. With a deep breath, Brother Thomas threw the switch. A blinding flash illuminated the square, followed by a crackling surge of energy. The crowd gasped, recoiling in fear. A collective murmur swept through the gathered masses. The corpse twitched. A faint tremor ran through the body, culminating in a clenched fist. The grimace on its face deepened. Was it life, or merely a grotesque parody of it? Panic seized the crowd. Screams pierced the air, prayers mingled with curses. Some, driven by primal fear, surged forward, brandishing torches and pitchforks, ready to destroy what they did not understand. Lady Isolde, defying the mob, stood her ground. "Enough!" she cried, her voice ringing out amidst the chaos. "This is science, not sorcery." But it was too late. Two figures in ecclesiastical robes, flanked by armed guards, pushed through the crowd. Their faces were grim, their eyes burning with condemnation. The church had arrived. Brother Thomas, his spirit broken, knelt before them. He knew what was coming. The church would not tolerate such blatant defiance of God's will. Master Guillaume, defiant to the end, was dragged away, cursing and struggling. His dreams of redemption, of unlocking the secrets of immortality, lay shattered. Lady Isolde, her reputation ruined, her wealth threatened, watched as her friends were taken away. The divine spark had become a dangerous flame, consuming everything in its path. Years later, in a secluded monastery, a lone scholar stumbled upon the fragmented accounts of Brother Thomas's experiments. The pursuit of knowledge, he realized, was a perilous path, fraught with danger and sacrifice. But the spark of curiosity, once ignited, could never be truly extinguished. The quest for understanding, even in the darkest of times, would always endure.